David doesn't
Welcome
realize
in.
that he's on mute.
Am I on mute?
You were.
I think my computer is so messed up. It is actually wild. It's like there's a delay to it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. And if you go and sign over at Underdog right now using promo code TRIPLE and you're a first-time user, first-time depositor, they'll deposit match you up to $100 if you use promo code TRIPLE. So a pretty good deal heading over if you head over at Underdog Fantasy. Right now with NFL, basically draft season in full swing, you can get that deposit match for your ball draft. They have a ton of great drafts going on over there. They have the Greyhound, they have the Puppy. They have a lot of different types of drafts that you can do. And then obviously your fantasy baseball drafts in the off season, those rules apply as well. We're back tonight with another episode, another week 12. We got sleepers, we got pickups, waiver wire pickups. We've got just fantasy advice in general. Joined by my guys, Doc and Marty Party. No cheesecake tonight, so it's going to be a little less sweet around here, but it's going to be just as fun. We miss our guy, but he'll be back next week. Doc, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. Sunday night baseball pod, getting ready for Fab. We're in June already, and, I have slipped to 13th in TGFBI, so I need this show to get me back in the top 10.
That's right, man. Top 10. Be a pretty amazing finish, even just finishing in the top 20. I think the best I ever finished was like 81. Marty, I don't know about you. What's the best you ever finished?
Top 50 a few years back, like 2021. But yeah, not nowhere near top 20.
Doc's on his way. Marty Party, you just came from the Detroit Tigers game, saw your boy, Tariq Skubal, throw 102 miles an hour and continue his Cy Young quest. How was that game?
We were about 15 rows behind home plate watching Skubal. I mean, he's absolutely incredible, mowing guys left and right. Tigers scored 10 runs or something. It's fun to be a Tigers fan this weekend.
Really is. Tigers looking good. That Central Division is obviously you have the Royals that are playing good ball. The Twins have faltered.
Incredible
as of late.
Baseball. The Royals are just on a different level right now. It's insane what they're doing.
Headlined by Bobby Witt, the Patrick Mahomes of baseball.
I've heard that.
A couple of years, just a little later than we thought, but he's really putting on a show. Is he the AL MVP frontrunner right now to you guys?
Aaron Judge.
You think it's Aaron Judge?
That's what that's what the sports books have, and it's not close.
I want to shout out Joe Arrico because he actually put a poll out yesterday, I believe, and it had like 500 votes at the time. And I want to follow up and see what the voting. It was like Aaron Judge, it was Bobby Witt, it was Juan Soto, and then I'm trying to remember who the fourth. I don't think it was Gunnar.
Jordan.
Just to see what Twitter has it right now. So you, Marty, you think it's right now it's Judge as well? If it was your vote,
I mean,
it was Gunnar. By the way, Gunnar was the fourth one.
How about maybe the Detroit Tigers sneak into the playoffs? And Skubal, he does this all year. Maybe he's the MVP. I don't know.
Well, I want you guys to okay. So again, shout out Joe Arrico 99. He got 1,787 votes on this. Rank them 1 through 4 in terms of how you think the voting shook out between Judge, Soto, Gunnar Henderson, and Bobby Witt Jr.
Judge 1, Bobby Witt 2, Soto 3, Gunnar 4.
I actually agree with that. Yeah.
Aaron Judge was 1 at 30.8% of the votes. Gunnar Henderson was 2 with 25.3% of the votes. Bobby Witt was 3 with 25.2% of the votes. Juan Soto was 4th with 18.7% of the votes. So Gunnar and Bobby Witt is a coin flip right now, 0.01% between them, and Judge has a 5% lead on both of them.
Wow.
So safe to say it's anybody's game at this point?
Yeah.
Eric, what is Bobby Witt on the books to win MVP right now?
Bobby Witt. Go to Marty for a second, and I'll chime back in.
I feel like he's a good value.
Like every year, if you're an outstanding Yankee, it's yours to lose. You're going to get the more
Does
MVP.
any part of you though think that Soto and Judge could eat each other's votes?
No.
Because they have the best record in the American League. So I think that, and they're both performing well. It is not up on ESPN Bet. Let's see if a lot of times they'll take the bets down once the games have started for the day.
Yeah.
So, okay. In the American League right now, Aaron Judge is plus 125. Bobby Witt is plus 450. Juan Soto is plus 460. Gunnar Henderson plus 480. The next closest, Kyle Tucker and Jose Ramirez at plus 1,800. So that is by far the top 4 most popular.
Today is June 9th. If I would ever risk a huge future bet again, it would be on Bobby Witt, but I'm not going to do that. I learned my lesson. So this is where I think you get the value for Bobby Witt, and you have the Yankees eat each other in terms of having 2 really good players split the vote, and the Royals come out of nowhere, make the playoffs. Bobby Witt Jr. gets it. So that's my pick. I want to shout out our guy, Eddie Buzz, who joined the show last week. He's in the chat tonight. He's talking about the Detroit Tigers. Tigers need Parker Meadows back up and hopefully Jace Young immediately after the trade deadline. What do you think, Marty?
I need Parker Meadows to start hitting the ball. So over the last 7 games in the minor leagues, he has 10 at bats. 10 at bats. He has 2 hits, no home runs, 1 RBI, 2 walks to 3 strikeouts. And over his last 15 games, he's batting 118. So until he turns that around, unfortunately, I'm not going to see him. And Jace, bring up Jace. There's no reason not to. I think that's perfectly fine. And Justin Henry Malloy looked pretty good today. I don't know if we're going to talk about him. I mean, he's batting under 200. So, and he's DHing nearly every day. I talked about last week. I thought that was going to be a problem where they're going to put him. You can't hide him. He's barely a corner outfielder. So I don't know what they're going to do with him there. But he's getting at bats right now.
It's some interesting ads, which kind of takes us to our first segment. We wanted to talk about some potential ads this week, and guys, we may be looking to add if they're out there in our 12 or 15 team leagues, and guys that we're probably going to leave on the wire if they're out there. Again, most of our advice is usually going to be for at least 12 team formats. 10 team leagues, there's a lot more variety available, so you might not need to consider these guys
Just
quite as much.
Come see me if you need any advice for 10 team leagues. I'm your guy.
Marty is the 10-team king. But the first guy I want to bring up here is Jesse Winker, who on the season, if you look at his season-long numbers, 6 homers, 28 RBIs, but 11 stolen bases with a 262 batting average, which is pretty crazy for a guy that was not really a big base stealer for the last few years of his career. He's got 261 averages, I mentioned, 6 home runs. And he's playing every day for the Nationals right now, who don't have a ton of great options behind him. So I'm going to go to you first here, Marty. Do you think Jesse Winker, if he's out there and, regardless of format, is he someone you're looking to pick up?
Yeah, you have to pick him up at this point. I don't know too many leagues. Even in my 10-team league, he has already picked up. So he's even against lefties right now. He's batting 231, and he has a home run, 10 walks to his 23 strikeouts. So not absolutely terrible. That's always something we're always worried about with Winker if they're going to platoon him. And the Washington Nationals lead all Major League Baseball with 97 total steals. So they're letting everybody run, and that's where Winker's able to get his career high 11 stolen bases so far.
Yeah, it's been wild, and I think a lot of it comes down to team philosophy. We actually had the fantasy baseball beat bring on Kurt Hogg this week, and talked about the Brewers being aggressive. You have a couple guys that like Willie Adames has, I think, 8 steals. You have other guys that
Brewers are ranked 3rd with 86 stolen bases right now.
Yeah, it's just again team philosophy. So if you can find teams that are running, you can get value with stolen bases in that regard.
Jesse Winker had 3 stolen bases in his career leading up to this season. And at age 30, he more than tripled the amount that he's had. That's crazy.
And none of his other numbers really, walk rate, strikeout rate, hard hit percentage is definitely up this year than it's been since 2021. But overall, just like a lot of his numbers across the board aren't too far off from what his numbers have been recently, mostly over the last few years. So expected batting average of 257 is right around where his batting average is right now. Expected slug of 250 or 399. Yeah, this looks like to me like a solid guy in a 5 outfielder league that you should roster.
Do you think the Nationals trade Jesse Winker? Because I don't think the Nationals are contending, and I know obviously they're third in the NL East. They are within earshot of a wild card spot, but Jesse Winker's in the final year of his contract, 2-year, $14.5 million. Don't you think the Nationals are the team that is going to flip veterans at the like they're not going to get rid of Corbin, but like if Trevor Williams was still healthy, Jesse Winker, Joey Meneses, those type of guys that they could try to get some value for?
Well, I think Eddie Buzz brings up a really good point. He says Jesse Winker is playing for his career after the season, but you have Wood and Cruz going to potentially be called up, which would basically make him expendable. You have to think James Wood is 100% getting called up. It's just a matter of when at this point with how he's produced at AAA. I think if he didn't get hurt, he would have already been up. And then Dylan Cruz was one of those uber prospects with Paul Skeens and Wyatt Langford, and the other two already are in the big league. So you think Dylan Cruz probably still also could have a shot of being up this year. I think he is going to be a trade chip for them. So at that point, do his steals go down if he goes to a different team? Outside the steals, he's a useful player, but he's not this player. I think so. This is maybe a sell high moment if you have Jesse Winker. See if somebody in your league is needing an outfielder and believes in him. I mean, I think he's a solid pickup. I just think the trade looming over him probably is going to decrease his value. So Eddie Buzz is a great point in the chat. Our buddy Mike VA, who we actually are doing a collab show with the Palazzo podcast on Wednesday, which is going to be fun. We'll have Art back and we'll be with both mics. So we'll talk more details about that at the end of the show. Mike VA says he needs one Mason Wynn or Davis Schneider. This is a Davis Schneider podcast. So I think we're
The answer is always Davis Schneider.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter what the question is.
If you watched this last year, if you guys ever saw the Rob Schneider skit for South Park, like Rob Schneider is a carrot. We always talk in that voice for Davis Schneider. Davis Schneider is the best pickup.
I mean, I don't know with Keaton Wynn if you can feel confident with anything besides the case. He had 7 against the Rangers yesterday, or actually today, but gave up 7 earned runs coming off an injury.
Are you talking about Keaton or Mason Wynn?
I think he's talking about Mason Wynn, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm assuming it's hitter or hitter. Like
I prefer Mason.
Oh man, now that's actually tough.
Yeah, I prefer Mason Wynn only because he only strikes out 17.5% of the time.
He said Mason.
And Davis Schneider strikes out 26% of the time. So I want the guy who has better plate discipline when kind of hard hit rate. Well, Schneider is going to offer you more home runs.
And Schneider hits leadoff too.
Yeah.
Mason Wynn's hitting leadoff.
Is he?
Yeah.
So
it's Wynn, Burleson, Goldschmidt, Arenado.
And Schneider, 11.7 walk percentage. Okay, so Schneider's walking a lot. He's barreling the ball at 13% of the time, and he's hitting the top of a lineup. I'm gonna step back. It doesn't matter that he strikes out 26% of the time. I like that a little bit more than Wynn, unless you need specifically you're worried about your batting average. But I mean, now you're losing 3 categories to help 1 a little bit.
Look, if you need a win, you go Davis Schneider. That's
I don't
how
know if we helped him.
I think it's 2 votes for Schneider, 1 vote for Wynn. Is that correct?
I go Schneider.
It's tough. It's tough. I do like Mason Wynn a lot.
All right, we're gonna go David Schneider on that one. Michael Mendez, who I think is new in the chat. Haven't seen him too often. Welcome to the podcast. TJ Friedel or JD Martinez rest of season. I'm team TJ Friedel for that one.
TJ Friedel.
Friedel.
The last week. I mean, since he's come back. I mean, stolen bases, runs, RBI, the pops there. JD's. Go ahead.
Over the last 7 games, 320, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 steals. We thought the power might be zapped with the wrist injury, but he's proven us wrong.
Yeah, no,
plays in a better ballpark too.
Yeah,
I want to go back to, so we agree on TJ Friedel. I want to go back to the Cardinals talking about Mason Wynn. How do you guys feel about Alec Burleson, who has 8 home runs? He's hitting almost 280 this year. I just picked him up in a league. Michael says, happy to be here for the first time, not the last. Appreciate you, Michael. What do you guys think about Alec Burleson? I thought he was a really good pickup. I kind of was holding off picking him up. This is a 12-team league, obviously 15 teamers. I think you already have Alec Burleson already on a roster. I think he's 12-team viable in points leagues, especially because I know he's not giving you a ton of steals. What do you guys think about Alec Burleson?
He's somebody that I added in TGFBI a few weeks ago because I thought he was one injury away from the playing time being there. And that's what now we have every day. He's hitting in the 2 slot. Yeah, he's not going to give you a lot of steals, but he also doesn't strike out a lot. 14% K rate this year. Obviously, he's not walking a lot as well, but the Cardinals offense has actually started to pick it up over the last month. And I do like the protection behind him with Arenado and Goldschmidt. I think that's a pretty good 3-4. The second half of the Cardinals lineup drops off significantly, but I like the opportunities that he's had there. And over the last 7 days, 267, 3 homers, 5 RBIs.
Yeah, and he has a hit in 7 of the last 8 games. And over that time, he has 4 home runs as well. He
homered in 3 consecutive games, too.
Yeah, he looks really good. The Cardinals, I've lacked hitting for a while. Consistent hitting. We hit Tyler O'Neill, showed flashes. Dylan Carlson had shown flashes. There's just empty promises with the Cardinals hitting, and he seems like he's one right now that could stick around. And as Eddie points out, go ahead, Marty.
I was gonna say the one thing I would point out about him that eventually when the Cardinals do get healthy, he may get platooned. He's hitting 218 versus lefties while he's hitting almost 300 versus righties. So I don't know in the long run if they're going to keep him in there when they do have all their outfielders back, or if Jordan Walker can learn to hit against lefties, if that's even possible ever again. But that would be the only thing I would just kind of keep an eye on what's going on around him with his playing time.
Eddie points out that Alec Burleson was a beast in AAA last year, finally living up to the pedigree. He did have high prospect pedigree. So, again, somebody that looks like to be very much 12-team viable at this point. Michael asks, my only first baseman is Rhys Hoskins at the moment. Dropped Cronenworth yesterday after his cold streak for Vientos. Now regretting. Thoughts? Bet O'Hearn also out there. Bell and O'Hearn could also be options out there. I picked up Mark Vientos in a couple leagues as well. I think Mark Vientos is locked into everyday playing time right now, and he's been producing. He's got like a 330 batting average right now before I check it out. But I think adding Vientos isn't bad. I don't know if I would have given up on Cronenworth yet. I don't want to say like, Mike, I don't want to make you feel worse for regretting it. Do you guys feel like dropping Cronenworth was the right move here? And if not, obviously it might be too late to pick him back up. Do you guys have an idea of who he could get between, Bell or O'Hearn if you have a preference?
Well, Vientos is third base eligible on ESPN. I'm not sure if he's planning to plug him in on.
It might have been a corner infield spot potentially he could be talking about too.
Right now I would go Josh Bell just because of the playing time.
Ryan O'Hearn is very streaky too.
Yeah, Ryan O'Hearn, that's playing time worries all the time. Cronenworth, I love him for his flexibility. I mean, I think he's second base, third base eligible in most formats. So but I can understand why he did let him go. Cronenworth does go through those streaks, even though he doesn't strike out that much. That can happen, but he's still barreling the ball 9.3% of the time. XBA at 275. So it's hard to say regretting. I think there's more upside with Mark Vientos. I think we can all agree to that. I think the power upside is pretty intriguing. But Cronenworth's a lot steadier.
I think we all agree Vientos is our favorite out of the group he listed to keep around in terms of I wouldn't drop Vientos for either of those two guys.
I do like Bell though. I do agree with Doc. There's no worries about playing time, and over the last few weeks, he's picked it up actually a couple home runs.
And he could be a trade piece for the Marlins too. Like he could, a team could now trade for him, and he slots into an everyday role in a lineup with better counting stats. The playing time with O'Hearn, 10 out of the last 14 games he sat. 3 out of the 4 games he sat, he has appeared as a pinch hitter. So, it's kind of interesting note there.
Yeah. But I think Vientos is a nice piece there. And again, Josh Bell, then if you're looking to add between him or O'Hearn. And Eddie says he'd love for the Cardinals, Doc, close your ears, to move on from Nolan Arenado and put Jordan Walker back at third base. I think him playing right field has messed up in his offense. I think that as well. And we've seen other people talk, like Vlad Guerrero.
Look at
Jr.
the last part. You see the last sentence?
They should move on from Paul Goldschmidt too.
Dude,
just a whole rebuild with the Cardinals right now. I mean, both of them aren't producing, let's be honest. The Cardinals corner infield options who are amazing defensively and amazing offensively have offensively been struggling. The only problem about moving on from them is you would get half of what they're worth, maybe a quarter of what they're worth to like what they were a year or two ago. At this point, like, I feel like moving on from them, unless you have a team eating a lot of their money, you kind of are stuck with them right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. They can't. First off, no, they won't let them. There's too much money, and no one's going to take that money. So are they going to DFA two potential Hall of Famers when they're not even doing well? Like, it's not like but they're earning 26. Okay, Paul Goldschmidt earning 26 million. Nolan Arenado, $24 million. No one's taking those.
Yeah, I think what best case scenario you could hope for here is, I don't disagree with Eddie that I think Jordan Walker would benefit from going back to his natural position. I think that can only help, right? So maybe it gets to a point where you put Nolan Arenado at DH, and then you have Jordan Walker at third, and then you still have to keep Goldschmidt at first. That's how I would envision it. But I don't know. That'd be the only way I could see it happening.
Arenado is under contract, 3 years, a combined $52 million, which actually isn't awful.
That's not bad.
That's not as much a cap hit or a team I could see not trading for him. I got to say, I think his shoulder is zapped. Think about, he had shoulder issues the COVID year and the year following. He had back issues last year, but he was such a solid Gold Glove third baseman for so long. I feel like all the years of zipping it across the diamond just zaps. I mean, how long do you see people be Gold Glove or caliber third baseman for a while? A lot of times they move to shortstop or they'll move to first. I feel like that zapped his arm. And Goldschmidt is actually an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Interesting. Maybe if Goldschmidt turns it back on, they look to trade him at the deadline. But Eddie wants them to be like Steve Cohen, pay some salary for better prospects. Cardinals definitely have a lot of interesting moves they could make. Let's get off the Cardinals, though, because I know we were just talking about Alec Burleson. Let's go to another player here. We talked about Mark Vientos last week, but somebody that I really liked last year, and he didn't perform, and I didn't talk about him this year, Jose Miranda. What are your guys' thoughts on Jose Miranda? He has 20 straight starts, and he's hitting 280, 313, 465 over that time. Obviously, Royce Lewis is back, and that could affect potentially some playing time, but they optioned Edward Julian down. So they chose to kind of send Julian down, even though maybe people could have argued it should have been Miranda. But with the way Miranda's been producing, how could you at this point? Is Jose Miranda somebody you guys are picking up in 12, 15 team leagues?
I will say this before I get into it. David, you and I were both wrong. You and I were discussing the Brandon Drury versus Edward Julian, who would be better. And the answer was neither of them will be good. They're both terrible. So,
oh God, what a horrible debate.
I mean, that's where the offseason is. And anyone listening to that could make, wouldn't have thought they would both be bad. So, I mean, but sorry, Doc, go ahead, answer the question. I'll let you go.
No, that's funny. I was thinking about the debate that you had. I remember Edward Julian was a popular topic, and I think Dave was like, how can he not be a stud? There's so many things that are lined up for him. I think Miranda is somebody that I've flirted around in our 12-team league. I think he has a lower ceiling in a points league. I don't think he's going to give you a lot of power. I know he has 6 for the season. He has 1 over the last 7 days. But I think the playing time is going to be there. He walks at a 3% rate. So really, you got to hope the batting average stays up. It's 273 this year at 292 BABIP. I think he's someone that has a very good floor. I don't think you have to worry about playing time with him, but I don't think he's going to give you spikes like we've seen with Alec Burleson or that we've talked about with other free agent pickups.
Yeah. Art comments. Art's in the chat. He said he was on Drury too. It was a very, very rough debate. Those are minutes of your life you'll never get back if you listen to that debate between us there.
Hey, I'm not giving up on Brandon Drury yet.
It's early. I mean, we'll look at the end of the season. If we talk about Hunter Brown and Christian Javier, imagine how we were with Hunter Brown up until this point, and now he's kind of turned it around while Javier's having Tommy John surgery. So, you never know. Carlos Santana's days are limited. Yeah, I mean, Carlos Santana's only there on a 1-year deal, so they could ship him off, DFA him. So that's another chance for Miranda to continue to get more playing time. Although, as as Eddie points out, Brooks Lee might be the next option to replace Willie Castro at second base. So he's a hot
But
pickup
isn't
for in terms of
Castro also playing center a lot too? They need him up
Castro
the middle.
plays like 4 positions.
Yeah, I know they got him in the outfield because obviously it's the Twins outfield. No one can stay healthy. Not 3 guys at once anyway. So I feel like Willie Castro won't die. So like I'm not giving up on him yet. But
Yeah.
I do agree with he's got to look over his back for sure because Brooks Lee's coming.
Yeah, it's a guy that's going to be interesting to look at. I want to get to MP31. I saw you comment about Drew Thorpe. Before we get to Drew Thorpe, there was somebody I wanted to bring up also that before I forget, and I wanted to bring up Heliot Ramos. He's got 5 home runs and a 320 average. Does have a 448 BABIP right now. Heliot Ramos, do you guys think that he's worth starting right now? He's, I think, a name that hasn't been as talked about over the last couple of weeks, but now he's kind of popping on the scene here. Do either of you guys have thoughts on Heliot Ramos?
I do.
The
There
silence
were people
is deafening.
Well, the thing is, I lost out on him in Glarf by about $4, and it's been bugging me ever since. So I try not to even think about it too much. But I mean, slashing 314, 405, 533, 6 bombs, barreling the ball at an Aaron Judge rate of 15% of the time, striking out a ton though. So I think it's a classic sell high in that case. As far as if anyone looks at this and thinks he's going to, finish with another 15 home runs, he's literally 29.9% of the time he's striking out. So that really scares me. But I think he, as of right now, potentially even in a 10-team league with 5 outfielders, he's rosterable.
Okay. Yeah, I think you ride the hot stretch, and in a 15-team, he's already been rostered. But the playing time is there. I think one of the worries coming in was, Jung-Hoo Lee, who the Giants signed to a pretty decent contract, was going to block that Michael Conforto was. And, now Heliot Ramos has an everyday role. There is one guy I want to talk about, and not even trying to subtle brag, but me being at the top of TGFBI, I'm trying to be very proactive than reactive. How do you guys feel about David Hamilton for the Red Sox? So on the season, Marty, go ahead.
No, go ahead, David.
I not really interested personally. I didn't know what you were going to go in with Marty. Go ahead.
So I think middle infield is really shallow in a deep league, like a 15-team NFBC style league. So I have find myself looking for. I mean, he has 13 stolen bases on the year with 3 home runs, batting .282. So there's a spot for him. He
plays every day.
Plays every day. It's a good field. The Red Sox, I think, are a little bit better than we thought they'd be. I don't know. I don't hate it.
He's hitting 7th or 8th now. I'm wondering if they move him up to 1st or 2nd.
I don't know.
He doesn't
walk enough.
Hunter, or what's his name? Ref Schneider. He's hitting 3rd. He's been balling.
But Wilyer Abreu is on the IL.
Yeah.
Tyler O'Neill re-aggravated a knee injury. They don't have a lot of options. And part of the reason I'm saying with David Hamilton is obviously the stolen base upside. He has 13 right now, but if he hits leadoff, I think that's something. I mean, he has 4 stolen bases over the last 3 days. So obviously the value comes from categories league, but I just think he has an everyday role and that he's someone that's under rostered right now.
And to your point about the stolen bases, Boston is top 10 in stolen bases on the year so far.
And Eddie, where does David Hamilton play once the team's back at full strength? Season ends September 29th. He won't play once Wilyer Abreu, Tyler O'Neill, and Yoshida come back. And Yoshida is on the mend. I know he's not coming back like next week, but he is expected to return. I think last time I checked, it's hopefully within the next month or so. He'd be probably one of those guys with a lot of points he mentions that you have to be prepared. He's like a Luis Matos, right? Like maybe he's a guy to add right now, but then you could easily see dropping him after a certain amount of time and he's not playing every day anymore. So maybe if you're able to get him for a lower fab bid, I don't think it's horrible, but I'm probably just staying away from him personally. Just there's too many question marks for me. Before we, I do want to He does ask Hamilton over Rafaela. What do you guys think?
Rafaela for me right now.
I take
And here's
Rafaela as well.
and real quick on Hamilton, he can't hit lefties. So again, we gotta not that like shortstops, get platoon. That's extremely rare. It's actually be a huge problem if they did do that. But I don't know. It's just I don't know if he's gonna be able to stay in the lineup.
I'm gonna go Hamilton over Rafaela. Rafaela for the season, 8 stolen bases. He's hitting .216, and over the last month has been in a pretty big slump. He had a 2-homer, 5 RBI day, and a 4 RBI day over the last week and a half. But other than that, no RBIs, it looks like, in the last 12 games outside those two.
All right. I do want to, because we're only here for a little under 20 more minutes tonight. I do want to talk about some pitching. And let's kick it off with what MP31 brought up in the chat, and Drew Thorpe, who was just called up from the White Sox. He was the main piece in the Dylan Cease trade. Do you guys think we should pick him up? Do you prefer another pitching prospect right now? I will not be picking up Drew Thorpe for multiple reasons. If you guys don't mind, I'll kick it off with Drew Thorpe. Number one, I don't like guys that don't certainly throw hard. I mean, 94 is not soft, but in today's MLB, you have to be really good with command to be able to get away with topping out at 94. Another reason, I mean, in terms of, it's not like he's getting a ton of strikeouts at AAA this year. He had 54 strikeouts in 60 innings. So he was averaging less than a strikeout per inning. He also plays for the Chicago White Sox, who have the worst offense in Major League Baseball. So wins are going to be at basically a premium because he's not going to be getting them. The strikeouts don't look like they're going to be there. He doesn't have good team defense behind him. There's a lot for me going against Drew Thorpe, where I'm personally, if he goes and he balls out this year, I will, be the first to say maybe I had FOMO and I missed out on him, but I'm not personally going to say I regret not picking him up when there's all those red flags to me. He has a really good changeup. That's kind of what his bread and butter is. He's one of the best changeups in the minor leagues, and that's how he does keep hitters off balance. But he's one of those guys, I feel like once teams see him a few times, there's tape on him that he could be one of those guys that doesn't stick around too long in his first stint in the big leagues. So I'm personally leaving him out there. Do you guys have any differing thoughts on Drew Thorpe?
I'm pretty much with you, but I think he would be a matchup dependent stream. I mean, I think there is some upside with him, and yeah, don't go and bank on having wins. And also the White Sox aren't contending, so they might limit his innings this year. They might have him go every 6 days or skip a start. But I don't think that there are going to be many pitching prospects called up, and pitching has been relatively thin this year. It seems like every week we're talking about a new starting pitcher going down. So I think just getting a healthy arm at a certain point, and there's not as much film on him right now. I think the first couple of times or teams that he faces, he'll have a little bit more success. I like the Mariners as a first matchup, but he's not something I would break the bank for.
He does have 2 starts this week. He did have a 1.35 ERA, a 7-1 record for AA this year. I'm sorry, I said AAA for AA. Birmingham, 1.35 ERA and 56 strikeouts in 60 innings.
Only gave up 3 home runs.
Yeah, so again, obviously, prospect pedigree main piece in the Dylan Cease trade. He has 2 starts this week, which is why he's kind of a hot name. He's got San Diego and he's got the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's actually going against Cease and going against Jordan Montgomery projected in those starts, according to Eddie. So, I'm sorry, Tuesday's Seattle versus Woo. I'm not picking up, even though it's 2 starts. I'm not picking him up. But okay, so that's where we're at with Drew Thorpe, at least for right now. We'll see if that burns us or not. Let's get to some more stuff in here. Because there was a couple more comments going on that. So James Coffey, who I think is also new in the chat. Welcome, James. In a 1-catcher categories league, 8 teams was offered outfielder Kyle Tucker for his Will Smith. I'm taking that trade.
Yeah.
Whoever gets Kyle Tucker, that's who
you get Kyle Tucker. Yep.
Yeah, James,
Kyle Tucker's is not a season-ending injury by
match
any means.
The Kyle in catcher. I know it's 8 teams, but in catcher definitely to get a higher end catcher. But Kyle Tucker is a dog, and then if you're telling me that I can get him in an 8-team league, I think he was my MVP pick for the American League before the season, and his overall season numbers are still really good. I'm making that trade every day for a catcher.
Yeah, especially in
you
an
could
8-team
probably
league. I mean, You can
You
get
get
any,
David
you can
Fry.
stream the catcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Stream the catcher position if you need to.
Yeah. Every week.
Yeah, and you
Sean
can place
Murphy's probably
Kyle
on
Tucker.
the waiver
Yeah.
wire.
You can take Kyle Tucker on your, if you have an IL spot, put him there, and then you'll have a catcher for free.
Yeah, I agree. Michael adds in a one catcher league, Riley not doing too much after the hot start. Would you drop him for Stevenson or Diaz? I'm dropping him for Stevenson, 100%. Yainer Diaz, I probably would still drop him for Diaz, but Stevenson to me is a smash. Especially in that ballpark.
I hate to give credit to Mike Kurland, but I'm going to give credit to Mike Kurland, who tweeted out about an hour ago, Yainer Diaz took a foul tip off his right hand, which is his non-catching hand. He was in obvious discomfort after this, but remained in the game and took his next at-bat. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was already Stevenson anyway. Diaz to me was.
Oh, he says it's Elias Diaz. Oh, yeah, it's. I would take Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson, who actually added. I'm just on ESPN right now in terms of the roster added. He's the second most added catcher in all of fantasy baseball outside of David Fry. He pinch hit today, but 2 hits just a couple days ago. 2 RBIs. He had 2 hits in 3 of those 4 games from June 3rd to June 6th. And his overall season numbers this year, 263 batting average, 6 homers, 22 RBIs, assuming you don't need steals. Like, he's producing like a top 10 catcher right now, and he's playing in a good ballpark, averaging 2 fantasy points per game in points leagues. Like that's a really solid piece. I'm definitely dropping him for Tyler Stevenson, no doubt. And then Eddie says, your thoughts on Joey Estes at San Diego versus Cease tomorrow. Minnesota next Sunday versus Paddock. He's been pretty good in his last 2 starts, 16 Ks in 18 innings with a good ERA and whip. What do you guys think about Joey Estes for at San Diego versus Cease tomorrow?
You take out that one game. You take out that one game when he gave up 8 earned at Houston, and he's gone 5 innings in every game. The other you could say blemish, 7 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned, 6 Ks at Colorado. But other than that, 1 earned run or less in 3 out of his 5 outings versus Seattle, at Tampa, and at Seattle. So he's had the benefit of that a couple times. I definitely think he's worth a stream. I wouldn't say I would feel confident starting him over Cease. Oh, it's a 2-start week. I think that's worth a shot.
So Doc's on the. Both you guys are on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's kind of floating under the radar, but a little bit above average strikeout rate with a 3.09 xERA over those 27 innings. He's plays in the Coliseum, so that's good. Yeah, I don't hate it.
All right, then let's. I think that's where we'll stay with that then. For Joey, dude, man, that's the chat is buzzing tonight. I love it. And Eddie, that's for you, buzzing, Eddie Buzz. But there was also a piece in the Juan Soto trade too.
The MP31 question, rather have Jeffrey Springs than Drew Thorpe ? That one's interesting. I know Springs just left he was just throwing and he got lat soreness and they shut him down again. So he's kind of in that in between. We don't know what to expect from Springs. So I would be leaning Drew Thorpe. No, still Jeffrey Springs.
I'm
going Thorpe. Well. I'm going Thorpe.
It's close, and it depends. How long can you wait? Do you need? Because we don't know what they're going to do with Springs. We don't know how long they're going to plan it.
Jeffrey Springs coming off of his lat tightness just through 24 pitches. He is not anywhere close to a workload at the major league level.
Yeah, on 40, he's up to 45 throws Thursday with no issues. So,
he did one inning in a Florida complex league on Friday.
Okay, so he's actually seeing live ball.
Yeah. Jeffrey Springs is. I think
I go Jeffrey Springs.
Yeah, he's worth it. I mean, do you guys remember how good he was before he?
David, I heard this on the pod last week. There was some Nolan Arenado slander. There was some Jeffrey Springs hype. You said Jeffrey Springs was the favorite for the Cy Young. He had 2 starts.
At that point, if you went to go bet it, he was the favorite.
David said that last week?
Yes, David said Jeffrey Springs was the side after 2 starts.
but the sports book updates after every start. So
Oh my
what do you want me to
gosh,
tell you?
David, you are such a hype man.
This is
I like the
just like
shows when
how
there's
you're the
just
David
me, Marty, and
Hamilton
Art.
stan. I'll be the Jeffrey Springs stan. That's how
I
we're gonna
never
go.
said David Hamilton is going to lead
You're a
the
stan,
majors and
bro. You're a
steals or
stan. Are
be
you
the
kidding me? Now you hyped
MVP.
him up. You would have thought you were related to him.
Get out of here! You are so reaching.
If Max Kepler doesn't have a great week because of his schedule, is he droppable? I think he's 100% droppable.
Anything
Even in
under
5
a
outfielder leagues,
15-team league.
12-team, 5 outfielder leagues, I think he's a drop. 15-team leagues, I probably hold. I'm with you, Marty. All right.
Just wait
So
for Royce
that's
Lewis
Max
to get
Kepler.
hurt.
James asks if time permits. We always got time for your questions, James. We will make sure. Let's get to this one here. Jake Irvin. What do we think on waiver wire ad Jake Irvin? Well,
You guys
I can
have
tell
talked in
you
depth about him last week.
I would say
we did, but James might have missed the show, so we're going to talk about him again. I think he's the what we call the 21% K club. Because like all the Nationals pitchers had 21% strikeout rates.
Yeah, he's part of it. Yep.
So he could get into a bar with his K rate. But that's about it where it stands. I mean, walk rate is decent. His expected ERA is a 3.84. Right now, his ERA is 3.12. So he is still, I think, a solid pitcher. The one thing I'm a little worried about with him is the exit velocity he gives up. He gives up nearly 116 miles an hour max EV, which is in the bottom 10% of baseball right now. And his exit velocity is also above the major league average. So he's given up a ton of barrels, a ton of hard hits. I think at the end of the day, you're going to get a guy that gives you about a strikeout per 9, gives you probably teetering around a 4 ERA. And he's going to give you his whip right now is 1.03. So I think at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to is if you have space for a guy that's going to, I think, be the definition of like a average major league starter, that's fine. I don't think he's going to, he's not what he was, I think, against Atlanta the other day. But he is probably somewhere a little bit more in the middle of like an average major league starter, which I think is useful. I just wouldn't expect what you saw in Atlanta to be consistent.
I don't know, David. The last 2 games against Atlanta, 12 innings, 6 hits, no earned, 14 Ks to 4 walks. Last 2 games at Atlanta. That's
Atlanta,
1 in DC. Okay, that's 2 games against Atlanta. His one game that he had a blow up this year was his second game against the Dodgers, where he gave up 4.2 innings, 12 hits, 6 earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. But his start before that came against the Dodgers. So I'm always wary when a team sees, or when a pitcher's consecutive outings are against the same team, because the game before that against the Dodgers, 6 innings, 4 hits, no earned, 1 walk, 6 Ks. He's been pretty good, and he's had a lot of tough matchups. Versus Philly, at Cleveland, Toronto, he threw 5 shutout innings, 2 games against Philly.
He's had 2 bad games against Philly.
I'll say this. All right, let's play the Would You Start Him. So here's Jake Irvin's next matchups here. Wednesday at Detroit.
Starting.
Okay. Next one for Jake Irvin's coming up at home versus the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I'd start.
I would start him.
And then Irving at Colorado.
No.
I'd start him.
Start him at Colorado.
Yeah. Why not?
And then lastly, he'll probably, and if this lines up, at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
No.
To me, he's startable until proven otherwise.
So he's at least, you can pick him up for the next 3 weeks until Colorado. Then you can make a decision.
I have to look this up on my phone because Fangraphs is blocked on my work computer. What's his left on base percentage right now?
His left on base percentage, 69.8.
And the major league average is what, 72%?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not, what's his BABIP right now?
BABIP is 269.
Okay, so that you would expect that BABIP's probably going to go up a little bit.
His expected ERA is 3.84 and has a 3.12 ERA. Dave, let me
again, useful major league pitcher, but I think he's more of a streamer / 5th starter.
Let me ask you
what he is right now.
He is SP 35 on the year. Rest of season, is he a top 40 starting pitcher?
No.
Okay. I say no. It's yeah, I go no.
Okay. I would flirt with him around
Let me be clear here. I love all the Nationals pitchers. That was my segment. No, I like Jake Irvin. I'm Doc. I'm with you. I'm starting him for the next 3 starts. Definitely in a 15-team league, maybe in a 12. I don't know.
It's just not. He's not a sexy name. He's not a sexy name.
And the wins, who knows if they're going to come. Yeah.
I want to get to the rest of the questions in the chat before we.
No, I just want to talk about Jake Irving the rest of the night. That's
it.
Jake
Irving fan club.
I should have put him as the thumbnail. How would you rank rest of season for the injured returning pitchers? Kershaw, DeGrom, Robbie Ray, Tyler Mahle, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Dustin May. I think
is Dustin May out this entire year?
Yeah, I think Dustin May's not even coming back. So
for
Dustin
me,
May's easily last.
Number 1 is Kershaw. He's throwing 90 miles an hour. He's already doing simulated games. I expect him around the All-Star break. So then from there, it's probably DeGrom, because even a month of DeGrom, even if he's pitching 3 innings, it's better than anything the rest of those guys can give you for sure. Unless you believe in Robbie Ray coming back with a guy who's already had command issues his entire career. He's coming off Tommy John. The hardest thing to get back is your command. That's the last thing to come back. So I'm not expecting much from him. And the rest of the guys, I mean, probably Erod over Mahle.
Mahle should be in the same category with Dustin May to me. Like I'm not.
I don't even put
Tyler Mahle though. So today's June 9th. On June 4th, Bruce Bochy said he will face live hitters. So Tyler Mahle had Tommy John surgery May 22nd, 2023. So it's about a year out. I feel like there's a chance he comes back this season. Texas is second in the AL West.
I'm with Marty 100%. Kershaw, I think, is the easy one here. Are you agree with that, Doc? And then
absolutely.
And then you can kind of rank them after that. I'm with Marty. I think DeGrom would be my second choice, and then probably Erod. But I think if you can again only pick up one of these guys, Kershaw is our pick here. Now, Mike does add, going back to the Vientos Cronenworth discussion, he could pick Cronenworth back up for Vientos. Would you pick him back up or would you stay put?
I don't have it in front of me, but I would look at the schedules for the next few weeks. I mean, Michael, how are you living right now? Are we cruising in first and you're looking for the best? If it's a head-to-head league, are you looking for the best team in the last few weeks of the year? Or are you like fighting day in, day out? I would go to, look at the splits, look at the schedules, and then kind of go from there. But I know Cronenworth has more flexibility because of his multi-eligibility.
Yeah.
I would go Cronenworth. It's in the last 4 games.
Yeah, I think I would go Cronenworth in a vacuum.
Cronenworth's been good. He's been solid all year. I know he had a few weeks down, but for the most part, when his ADP, I think, was like almost in the 400s. Like people completely gave up on him. I did not, and he's been good.
Yeah, I think I think you'd probably go Cronenworth there. Either Vientos isn't bad to have, but I think Cronenworth slightly.
There's more upside. I think that's where you're at. If you want just upside, I think there's more upside with Vientos.
Yeah. 2 guys hurt currently. Would you rather roster Jeffrey Springs or Eloy Jimenez? Is any of us
Jeffrey Springs?
Yeah, we're not rostering Eloy Jimenez. He'll come back and get hurt in a couple games probably. And even when he was on the field, he wasn't producing either.
I know it's it's a cop-out answer, but it's the true, question you got to ask. Like, what do you need more?
I think into this landscape,
he's not providing you anything, Marty. What do you need? what would Eloy give you that you need? 231 batting average, 3 stolen bases, the first 3 of his career, 5 homers, 12 RBIs, and 134 at bats. He's giving you nothing.
This empty cup's providing as much as Eloy Jimenez is right now.
I'm not. I haven't.
He's a DH only. He only takes a utility spot. He's a roster clogger. I have not fully given up on him. I think if he can stay healthy for 2-3 months, he finds his swing back. He has a good swing. We've seen him. He's good. It's just, do you believe he can stay healthy? He's proven not. Soft tissue issues constantly. And Art puts he's out at least 3 more weeks.
But I think even like Eddie agrees too. Like Springs over Thorpe, and Springs was a stud. I think he's worth holding on to, especially if you have an IL spot. So I think he is somebody that we're gonna recommend here to stash if you can. Do you think James asked? Do you think Garrett Crochet will be pitching in September during the fantasy playoffs? I think if you have Garrett Crochet, and I have a few shares of Garrett Crochet, at any point where you can get rid of him for really good value, I'm trading him because he is going to get shut down. And it's just a question of when. This is a guy that had pitched, I think, under 20 major league innings before he had surgery.
Yeah, well, 2021 he pitched 54 innings, 2023 12 innings, and then this year so far 75 innings.
Yeah.
So maybe 120 at the most.
There's going to be a Phantom IL stint coming at some point, I would expect. And they're going to probably shut him down when they're at some point in September when they're eliminated. Because why would you pitch him?
He's only 24 years old. Yeah, there's no reason to push him.
The only thing I think people are talking about is if he gets traded, does that increase his value? Do teams,
what would a Garrett Crochet trade yield right now?
I mean,
a guy that's under a lot of team control, 24 years old, proven ace upside. What would that yield you right now?
He'll get you, I'm sure, probably, if I had to guess, a top 50 prospect and probably one or two other pieces.
Is that worth it though?
Depends if you need pitching. If that's gets you over the hump, team can trade for him and then kind of save a lot of his innings for the playoffs and kind of just have him pitch, maybe out of the bullpen in 3 or 4 instance.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think there's a world where he gets traded to a contender and he's pitching out of the bullpen to finish out the rest of the year? I think that would be kind of smart.
That's what they were talking about with Luis Heel too.
Yeah, but you have to take a different type of approach. I mean, you can't go into, if you're going against the 2-3-4 hitter in the 8th inning, you can't come in there and just, pitch what you would normally pitch. You have to come out throwing 110% right away, and that might screw things up long term. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think if you can trade Garrett Crochet right now and get really good value, I would do it just to not deal with the headache. But you have to definitely get really good value. I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. It has to be someone with a good offer. I think if you're trading him for a hitter, it's safe to say someone you drafted in the first 60 picks.
I would say a top 50 bat, I think, at the end, around there.
Yeah. But I think that'll wrap us up for this week. Is there anybody else you guys wanted to get to really quick before we get out of here? Hey, look, guys, everybody that was in the comments, this is our favorite way of doing the show is just answering your guys' questions, talking about players you have questions about, and kind of just interacting with everybody. So we are live every single Sunday night, usually around between 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern time. So if you subscribe to the channel and you set the notifications to go off when we're going live, you'll know exactly when. But we really appreciate all you guys tuning in and being a part of what we do every week. If you guys want a little extra from us, we're actually going to be collabing with the Palazzo podcast this week, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to do an hour collab show talking about just fantasy baseball. I don't know exactly what yet, but it's going to be 5 or 6 of us. Art will be back for that show. So if you guys want an extra little taste of stuff Wednesday night, we'll be doing that. And again, we'll be back on Sunday. So appreciate you guys. And for Marty, for Doc, I'm D Mendy. We're going to make a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. Talk to you guys next week.